LGD, which have now been left open and available. Everything else that was banned before has been banned now. And interestingly, even with those open, Suning not feeling like they need to go towards it, but you would think if they want to secure either of those, it has to be in the first three. I could very much see Kramer being confident on the Ezreal to pick it up now, but I kind of like it as a third pick because I think there are counter options. We've seen teams look to punish it in the early laning phase. For now, I expect them to secure. I mean, Sett is a great pick, but also probably the Rumble again for Shadow, because why not?
Honestly, yeah. Like, I love that you said that. It's like literally, why not? I do also, I want to see what, you know, LGD look like with this kind of continuation of the wombo combo that they are picking up here. There's the Rumble, as you said, and now for me, it's all about Suning's choices here and where they prioritize in at least their pick order, because if you go for, you know, the later picks of the ADC, the support, you can find still those very, very strong picks to set you up. But I need to see that stability early to not let Shadow just take complete control of the game and the jungling early on, as they will get the Diana. So they have a lot of go forward buttons as well, because they top it off with the Nocturne in their first three picks. Every single one of those champions goes forward, Aux. I'm just pulling out the big brain here and realizing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of dive potential in this composition. I think, honestly, an Ezreal pickup here for LGD could be really valuable in response to that, but they could also end up picking a mid laner, and it looks like they're going towards a Sylas. So I really like this. I think Xiye is amazing on this champion. I think if you send the Sett in the mid lane, then we're going to have a reverse of what happened last time, which is the Nocturne just has permanent priority. Sylas are not a lot more capable of contesting that. I will say, though, for Suning, I like the fact that they picked the Diana instead of, you know, putting the Lee Sin jungle. You need something with a fast play speed to sort of match the side, the Rumble coming up from Shadow. Do you see the Karma being banned away? Suning, I think you have to ban Ezreal here. It's going to cause too many issues, sort of with regards to the protection for Kramer, although potentially things like the Thresh also an option that you could look to chip away on.
Yeah, just taking away maybe some of those engage options to follow or to set up everybody that wants to go forward. I do like the Ezreal ban, as you were kind of mentioning, we wanted to see come out, because it does provide a lot of stability, a lot of safety for Kramer, and that's definitely not what you want to give him. So LGD will have one more ban on the table, and you got to expect it is going to be focused down towards that support pool, towards those engage options.
Honestly, I feel like Varus still being open, Suning, of course, could be a concern. Thresh actually banned away, so that kind of limits a bit of the effectiveness of the Varus. But to be honest, at this point, it's very hard to pick an AD carry who isn't going to be threatened by both teams' dive. But I think Suning, you know, the leading options for me, I feel like there's still the potential to go like a Tom Senna lane. There's still the potential for things like the Kai'Sa, things like the Varus. I think Varus is probably the standout for me, but I could also see a Senna ban being just as legitimate here for Suning. Either way, you know, see Kramer's strength, but actually go for the Tom Kench. I guess it kind of does negate the effectiveness of the Senna and the Varus, so it kind of limits how well both will function. But at the same time, I feel like in this situation, there are other supports that you can pair with both of them. It really comes down to what LGD want to do.
Mark's Leona is still up.
Yeah.
Just say.
It works well with the engaged Kalista, though. I kind of respect that one. A lot of aggression in the laning phase, and honestly, kind of hard to pin down for some of these champions on Suning's side. There's no instant hard CC. You kind of have to get in range first before you can use like the Lee Sin kick or the Moonfall from the Diana.
Yeah, and you're gonna have a lot of follow-up there as well with the Fate's Call available for you, and I really wonder what they want to round it out with. I've got to expect engage, something tanky to come out for Mark. And on the other side of it, Suning do pick up the Nautilus for themselves, so get that extra engage for them. They have the depth charge available, the dredge line, every kind of CC possible here, as they have multiple CC options, as well as the Varus that you were kind of alluding to, potentially coming out here into the Kalista, which I don't know if I necessarily am super excited about that matchup, but you need range here. You need to be able to stop this Kalista from really getting ahead in the lane, and their option to do so is the Senna. So it's going to be the Senna Nautilus lane.
Yeah, some pretty strong laning there. I think if the Varus had come out, I maybe would have been leaning towards LGD, could have been strong with the Braum, but if it's going to be the Senna Nautilus, Nautilus works well on the Kalista. You have that point and click ultimate. Senna obviously scales well and there's a long range, but I think LGD have a lot of options. Leona makes a lot of sense here, and yeah, good matchup in a Nautilus, a lot of engage potential. I kind of feel like LGD coming out with a bit of a draft advantage here as well. It's definitely not as sort of favorable as game one was. There's more windows for tuning to make things happen, but ultimately I think LGD can be pretty happy with how they've navigated this one.
Honestly, I was gonna say, like, they've gotten a lot of pieces they feel comfortable with. I am very excited to see Kramer on the Kalista. Takes a special kind of player to be able to execute in this moment, especially against a composition like Suning have, and I want to see if Kramer's got the stuff tonight. And Mark picking up his tried and true Leona. Love to see that. Want to see if Mark can get roaming. Maybe we see what we were talking about in game number one come out in game number two. Both teams are set up here. We have a lot of pieces for both. It's still, for me, circling always back to the early advantage these junglers can have. SofM on the Diana needs that early gold. You need to have an impact in the early game. And Shadow on the Rumble. You saw his impact early game last time around. It was impeccable. It was insane. It was amazing. And if you can find a way to put a stop to that, if Suning can turn this series around and not go quietly into the 2-0, not let themselves get one-upped by LGD to take one extra spot in the standings, Suning need to pull it out here. They've got a comp to do so. They've got to Lee Sin, for gosh sakes, with the Nocturne, with the Diana. It's all about execution from here on out.
I think it all starts on that mid jungle, having the Lee Sin and the Diana. Pretty strong 2v2 in the skirmish, and they come online quickly. I think it's really going to be on Angel. If he can deliver on this Lee Sin, if he can assist his jungler, if they can find an advantage through that, then we could see the window for Suning to gain an advantage, and that's when they can start to find favor in this game, because I think if Shadow gets a repeat of that game one, I mean, it's obviously over.
Yeah. Well, here we are. You see Summoner's Rift loaded up, ready to go. Action is on the horizon as Suning take on LGD in the second game of this first series of the night.
A lot to break down here and sort of think about. It is going to be a fasting center, as we always see currently. Typically does mean that Ong is going to be farming, and this has some advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that the Nautilus gets a ton of extra farm, obviously, and is able to sort of be a lot bulkier than otherwise. The disadvantage is you now have two people tied to the lane, whereas on the other side, Mark, he's going to be able to move around a bit more. Now, with a Kalista, someone who's quite short-ranged and obviously wants to play aggressive, there's not going to be as much windows as if Kramer was playing, for example, Ezreal. But I can definitely see Mark as the player who's intelligent enough to find those windows and then as a result be able to push forward and find advantages on the map.
Yeah, and something else I find really interesting coming into this game is like the difference in the style of play and the direction of play for both of these squads, right? We're kind of switching sides for the bot lane. We're looking for that early aggression. You're looking for early kills, blood for LGD, and on the other side, you're just trying to hold on, farm up, get Huanfeng to a point where he's just shooting out laser beams as the Senna, and I think that's really an interesting approach, and it's leaning more into Suning's natural play style, where they want to go for the later game, they want to scale up, they want to get to the part where they can pick you apart in team fights.
Absolutely, they want to be able to lean into that, and I think this comp suits him. You can see already Angel finding a bit of success in the mid lane, but Xiye looking to answer back, and I think this is what you want to see. Angel freed up to be a bit more aggressive in the laning phase and find an advantage, and this should give windows to SofM to match Shadow. Both of them just clearing pretty happily here, although SofM actually a little bit ahead in terms of pace so far.
And we'll be seeing the same side clearing going on for both of these junglers. Maybe looking for that early skirmish over the Scuttle Crab that we saw last time around. Double Scuttle was secured by Shadow last time. See if SofM goes quietly this time around, as I do not think that that's going to be the case. Shadow actually showing himself mid first. Will just abandon top Scuttle to go for the bottom Scuttle, and they will trade away both of these neutral objectives.
And this is the important thing, is despite the fact that Suning have mid and top priority, LGD have bot priority, so Shadow's able to get a Scuttle. I think that's kind of the difference maker in this situation. As we saw last game, there wasn't many great options for SofM, whereas here, even with a little bit of a rough spot in the mid-top, Shadow still has an option to lean towards that can secure him the scuttle. But you see
Look at this pathing.
Feeling comfortable to play aggressive, yeah.
Shadow went to the scuttle, then is going all the way top because he feels that SofM is up here taking his Krugs. Will be spotted out. Fearness under tower here, but Shadow is right behind. Can Fearness dodge out with the flash? He does so. SofM taking tons of damage. Shadow has the angle here. This is good. Potentially just going to be first blood going over to LGD again. Could they be able to get this? Shadow has some harpoons. The flash comes out from SofM. And unfortunate, both flashes are down for Ben and SofM. Xiye has to burn his in the mid lane. So that's flashes across the board really burn from everybody up towards the top side of the map.
Yeah, only Angel holding his, managing to find that advantage in the mid lane. But yeah, great timing from Shadow to come top. We had his Krugs available and picked them up. And then also on top of that, was able to respond to play from SofM. And I think that's what really is showing Shadow's strength in the jungle. It's not just the proactivity, it's the ability to respond to Suning's plays on the map and SofM's, and then as a result, shut them down. Now, Shadow is falling a little bit behind in farm and is going to take this window to invade on the Raptors. A reset from Angel actually allows Xiye to move with, so good pairing from this mid-jungle duo. We saw Xiye talking about that before the game.
Yeah, they've got it on point here, at least in this one so far. As Xiye is actually taking a heavy trade for Angel here. Angel just going to be too slippery for Shadow to get onto early on in this laning phase, but I do like to see the attempts nonetheless from Shadow, just trying to get active early. For both of these teams, that's what we set out for. And so far, we haven't had that early blood. We haven't had those real big skirmishes yet, but you've got to feel it coming, and LGD honestly need it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, if they can find the setup, they're happy with that. But I feel like they're kind of comfortable waiting for sixes. You know, you get a lot of power there in terms of engage potential, the equalizer as well. And as much as Suning have been a really strong team when it goes to those later team fights, I feel like LGD have a lot of strength when it comes to 5v5s and skirmishes. So I look to see them kind of hold up some strength when we get to that area. For now, though, both teams just have to sort of farm up. We do see a bit of a CS gap opening up in the mid lane. Angel in a favored matchup there, but obviously the Sylas is something that scales really well into later stages.
And SofM is just stealing away these Krugs like it's nobody's business. Or Shadow going to be lacking that, but he will have Dragon go ahead and chew on here as LGD will get their first objective of this game, number 2. Going to be the Ocean Dragon to go over. So early neutral objective for some farm given up to SofM.
I think the thing we look at here is, you know, we've seen SofM steal away a couple of camps. We've seen him be ahead in the clear. We've seen him able to try and apply pressure top lane. But we compare that to game 1 when Shadow was doing the same, and it was so much more explosive. I mean, the difference was night and day. And I think that's the thing. Despite this looking positive for Suning, it's not nearly as positive as what LGD were able to do in last game's early game. So it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to see Suning with a gold lead for once in this series. But ultimately, I feel like there's more that could potentially be done. But for now, it's difficult. You know, Fearness on this set isn't pushing too far outside the lane, is playing a champion that's notoriously difficult to dive. So it kind of just puts the brakes on things, allows these teams to take it a bit slower. Now, we have started to hit that level 6 point. Ultimates now coming available across the board. And that's where I think you can look to start these skirmishes and play around that. For now, though, we can see Shadow and Mark moving together as a 2-man unit, something that we expect to see. And the difference is, Ong can't move away from the lane. He's the one who has to farm. So he's kind of trapped there, whereas this is the jungle support duo we talked about. These two love to pair up and move together and look to invade.
And they've got the combination to do so. The Rumble Leona is super strong together if you are able to get those roams off, the timing's off. And it doesn't come this time around, but, you know, as long as they're feeling comfortable trying it, getting that movement going, we actually do see a roam coming in from the Suning bot lane. They just, instead of, you know, splitting and roaming, they're just gonna bring everybody they can to mid lane, but won't find anything with it.
Yeah, look to contest a bit of that vision, clear out that control ward. And it's just kind of finding the windows when the waves have moved. Now, you see Aux just to return bot, but Huanfeng isn't limited by the waves. So he's going to move up and assist with his team on the Herald. But LGD have brought their entire bot lane. And I think Suning have to respect that and back away. There's no way you want to take a 4v5 scenario. You're happy with your, technically support farming up in the bot lane. So you kind of just want to buy time in this situation.
I like the technical aspect of that, but I thought that maybe we saw some things from LGD going down on the Rift Herald. They decided not to do it. There was a little bit too much pressure there by Suning, but now you're seeing Suning move into that position, and I really like that. I don't know if they're necessarily going to full commit. It does look like they are going to do so, and for right now, there's really no response that can come out from LGD.
Yeah, I like the patience. You know when you have a numbers advantage, so you wait, and then Kramer is forced to go bot or miss a massive wave, so it gives you that window to push in. And realistically, LGD aren't strong enough to force in, because right now SofM up in gold, Angel up in gold, and in a really strong spot for the Lee Sin. So eventually it amounts to them being able to pick up the Rift Herald. And it's a slower early game than we saw in game one, a lot more measured. I feel, well, I wouldn't say measured, because I think LGD were very calculated with theirs, but it just feels like Suning are finding the advantages that they can, and it's definitely a positive compared to that game one, but
it is. It
doesn't really rule LGD out as of yet.
Yeah, I'm just really worried once you start getting to the wombo combos for LGD. I look back at the Nocturne, I look at SofM on the Diana. These are champions that, as I said in game number one for the Diana, like, you need gold on, right? Like, you don't want to become that paranoia bot for the Nocturne. You want to have something to say in these fights, and LGD have something to say to On, as he's going to have to burn his flash. Almost gets ripped apart by the Ren, but will get out with just a tiny sliver of health. As LGD, you're starting to make moves.
I like the proactive play though coming out from LGD. It's that sort of death rush pairing. We see Shadow and Mark able to lay the CC down with the ultimate. It unfortunately isn't quite enough to take down Ong, but they get his ultimate, they get Huanfeng's ultimate, they get his flash. I consider that a pretty solid trade overall, and I think they can be happy with that one.
I definitely think so as well, as we are getting to about a minute left until another dragon on the Rift. LGD want to prioritize another early dragon here in this second game, or where their attention turns otherwise, as we could see mid lane continue to be the stage set for both of these teams, as we've seen junglers positioning around that lane constantly, but SofM has changed things up a little bit. He wants to give Fearness a little bit of that bullying that we saw in game number one for Ben, who wants his revenge, but they can't find the window they were looking for.
I think it's so risky, because see the question mark ping come out? They're
wondering
where is Shadow? Oh.
Fearness base checks it right into the Moonfall combo. Ben right there has Paranoia available. There's the Haymaker coming out. SofM gets Showstopper, but he survives! Oh. Fearness is going to want that one back.
It's such a mistake from Fearness. Honestly, I saw that scenario and I was like, okay, they don't know where Shadow is. You can tell from the question mark things. They're scared of the TP from Xiye coming out to negate the dive. All that Fearness has to do is sit on the tower and he's completely safe, but he steps out from tower trying to get information as punished. We've seen more play come out.
Paranoia does come out. They have found Xiye up there on the top, as he's going to be getting the kill on the bin. I thought that maybe SofM could find an avenue to get up there and help Ben, but he does not. The Paranoia just came out to help try to buy some time. Bot lane actually had that engage, but it doesn't go either way. And now you see the movement from LGD is right here on this dragon.
Yeah, I mean, they know the enemy junglers on the top side. Thin down means no TP can come in, and Xiye actually stole away the Paranoia there. So one of the advantages of Sylas here, you have some pretty solid ultimates to steal now. Huanfeng's going to try steal this, but no chance to even get close. And considering this is an early advantage for Suning, they're down 2 dragons. Now, we'll get the replay here. I think he's a little bit overconfident. He's like, my jungler's here, I'm completely fine, but he eats everything.
It just, like, point blank, the Paranoia doesn't matter, because you've got all that time as of blindness to go down, and yeah, it just eats all the damage. Honestly, really nice play coming out from Xiye on that Sylas. We know he's a very strong Sylas, but the combinations are starting to come out really nicely for him. As Suning moved mid with the Rift Herald to try to take this tower.
Yeah, they'll get a couple of plates. You can definitely be happy with that. A lot of times you'll just see the Herald go in mid. The first one, you get a couple of plates. It gets the tower low enough that the second Herald takes it down. But again, I'm comparing to game one. LGD, their first Herald took mid tower. So an advantage for shooting by all means. But it's not a massive advantage. LGD still in it. The gold lead is pretty big for the time being, though. But also, those 2 dragons in LGD's pocket definitely give a lot of wiggle room for when LGD want to fight. So I want to see Suning look to continue this momentum and keep applying the pressure, and ideally find one of these towers earlier rather than later, so they can open up the map. They can make use of things like the paranoia, like the dawning shadow, to apply a bit more pressure across the 3 lanes.
And can I just say I'm really happy with SofM's movements so far in this game, right? He's not letting Shadow get the upper hand. He's not letting him control the pace of the game. And he's not letting what happened in game number 1 happen to him again. Like, he is going up in Shadow's jungle. He is invading. He is keeping the pressure up, making Shadow think twice about his movements. And that is the SofM I want to see. I want to see the confidence come out from this team. I want to see that come through the team members themselves, the individual play that comes out. And we just haven't been able to see that so far in this series, but it's starting to shine through just a little bit.
I think as well, it shows how much difference priority in lanes makes for a jungler.
It really does.
Shadow just able to run away with it, but here with Angel able to push Xiye in the early game, Finn as well, it just gives so much more freedom, and there is now that pretty significant CS lead between those junglers and a level lead as well, but still slow and steady. And I think, again, it's looking towards where that first tower will be taken down. I feel like you have options in this situation, but SofM doesn't feel pressured for time. Just taking things slow, taking it relaxed. Nice Sunday morning. Well, not for him, but it is for me.
Yeah. At least it's for some of us. But yeah, just trying to get the...
Somewhere, it's Sunday morning.
It's
right?
5 o'clock somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But it's really in the morning. But I do want to go back to what you were kind of talking about and talk up this Suning team up a little bit here, because I do feel like, you know, even though they tend to want, at least with this composition, to get something going earlier on, like, it is that decision making, it is the target calling in later game that makes me confident in this kind of composition for them and the way that they want to play the game, right? Like, they have not found those explosive leads like LGD did last time around, but if you can continue to be calm and cool and realize the pathing of the map and how SofM can continue to get leads, he's been up consistently on the farm over Shadow this game. That was not the case last game.
Yeah, and he's continuing to use that momentum, finding another Herald. You can just throw down mid as soon as you have wave priority, secure the tower, and that very much opens up the map, which would be absolutely huge in this early game. So that's what I'm looking to see from Suning here, but it's also that 3rd dragon in a minute 20. And this may be our first team fight, because LGD would love to secure a 3rd one and be on soul point already, but Suning, I'm sure, will want to stop that.
It's just crazy to me, and this is why I love the LPL so much, is you can have these games where we just came off a crazy game. There was fighting all over the place. LGD were just everywhere they needed to be. This game, we're 17 minutes in, it's 1-1. But the thing about the LPL is it can stay this long, it can stay like this for as long as it wants to, but there is a moment in the game where it all just explodes in a giant firework factory explosion, and stuff just happens where leads are developed, snowballs are accrued, and either one of these teams can really come out on top. And that's why I think it's so interesting that we are leading up to this Dragon Soul point for LGD, and the fact that they are getting around the map here, trying to get the vision down and trying to get the side lanes into their favor here. Xiye is taking a wonderful trade with Angel right now, doesn't land the abduct though, and won't be able to follow it up.
Has chunked him out, and I don't feel like Suning are really in position to contest this dragon. There's a massive amount of vision being secured around it by the side of LGD, and you can see Suning's response is to push mid in. They know that the tower is low, so they know LGD has to respond, and then with their mid priority, they can transfer the pressure down towards the dragon. But instantly, TP from Fearness.
From behind, getting the flank here, but they've already found the engagement. There's the paranoia coming out from Ben. Gonna help buy a little bit of time here for SofM. He's gonna go in for it onto Fearness, but Fearness has a huge haymaker to dish back some damage. Nobody's gonna fall just yet. Yeah, we're getting ultis, we're getting skirmishes, we're getting bloody members, but nobody is gonna go down. We're gonna stay at 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, I thought someone was gonna go down there with that TP flank coming in from Fearness. A really good angle, but Suning able to disengage. And now they have actually posture on the objective. Herald going to come down. This is just mid tower dead, essentially. And it means LGD have to respond to it, and Suning should be able to push into that Dragon area and take control.
LGD just floundering just for a little bit here, waiting to figure out where they want to put their laners, but they will look for bot lane as Xiye and Shadow are going to try to find Angel. The rest of the team is coming down. We could get a little bit more of a spicy fight here as Angel's looking to get back with the team at the Dragon that Suning has started. Mark has found SofM though. He's going to go back in, but he can't survive very long. SofM is down, and that means that LGD is hitting the go button. That is Dragon sole point for LGD after a reset.
Really good opportunity found there by Mark to take out the jungler, instantly securing that Dragon essentially for the team. And yeah, Suning had a good early game. They had a gold advantage, but now they're looking at Soul in 5 minutes if they don't stop LGD. Perfect window found. Good punish. And you got a question, was the early game too slow? Were you too inactive with the lead you had? Because at this point, LGD looked comfortable.
They definitely do, and Mark's comfortable enough to flash Zenith Blade right onto SofM. When SofM had members around him, he had teammates there, but it was just too quick. And a heads-up play from LGD gets them more of an advantage here in this game. And honestly, those kinds of plays are why we laud Mark so heavily here in this series and for this team. Because it is those engages that make the difference. It is those decisive calls for LGD that gets them the early advantages, and it might not have been there for the early part of the game this time around, but it shows up when it matters.
Exactly, he's able to find the window, really clutching his team fights. And SofM hasn't had a great performance so far this series. I really felt like as a player, the start of the split he looked pretty underwhelming, but as it transgressed, he's looked better and better. But now this is another one of his rougher performances where he has just been challenged throughout, and even when given a lead, wasn't able to cement too much. But the game definitely isn't over. There's still a gold lead for Suning. There's still CS lead, mid, top, jungle. Obviously not in the bot lane with the Nautilus carry, but ultimately they have that lead to work with, and really it comes down to this next fight. And the next Dragon spawns, able to find a close moment, but I'm playing with fire here, but I think he's looking for the engage.
I think he is too. They have Xiye right there coming up behind as well. Not going to actually go for the full engage here. Tower is taken by Ben in the top lane though. So objective is still going down in favor of Suning, as they've gotten the second tower of the game for themselves to LGD 0.
And another thing to think about is, like, although there's like a 3,000 gold lead, there's also a team with a Senna. You get a lot of gold value from those souls that you wouldn't otherwise, so there is more at play here than just the raw gold amount. Suning, pushing that advantage and get that mid tower really opens the matchup map and allows them to apply that pressure. Can definitely lean down towards the bot lane. They are going to push this wave up, and that's when they can potentially look to apply pressure on that bot tower and finish it off. That would be my goal before the next Dragon spawns. If you take that tower out, allows you to push into the enemy jungle a little bit deeper, establish that vision line and get control. But you still have to be a tiny bit concerned if you give up too much pressure. There is that Baron that could potentially be stolen away if you divert too much attention to the bot side.
And SofM just goes for a little bit of vision clear, but just getting aggressed out of it here. And I want to go back to what we were talking about before we get one of these objective fights setting up. And SofM, you know, having been on Suning since 2019, has become really one of the faces for me for Suning. Has been a mainstay for them in the way that they like to play the game through the jungle and how they get their advantages, really. And going up against Shadow, I was so excited for this matchup. SofM against Shadow. Shadow, new jungler to the league. You're finding all these great early just looks from Shadow that there is so much to build off of. And I was like, SofM, this is your moment. You shut him down. You're back to it. You're right on top like you've been in the past. And it just hasn't come up in this game. And maybe those later game team fights are where we see that come through. But Shadow is just looking so incredible for being a new jungler in the LPL. He's fitting in just right.
Absolutely. I think he's been really strong for the team. And again, talked a little bit about Shadow and Mark and their pairing. I think they do that wonderfully. I'd argue that SofM individually has looked fine, but I think his pairing with Aux has been the weakest part, and that's the big comparison I draw between these two. But that being said, Suning finding this lead, they apply that pressure down towards bot. You see Angel easily pick up that tower, and now 50 seconds on that dragon. They have about just under a 4,000 gold lead. This is the point where we need to see Suning crush a team fight. They need to win this cleanly, get the dragon secured, hopefully move on towards the Baron on the back end. So LGD fighting with the deficit now may end up being a trouble engage coming in.
They've got the engage here onto the back line, but the equalizer comes down beautifully, and Ben has to flash away. So now LGD move forward. They've still got all their tools available to them, and Suning are resetting and split up here. LGD could just take that and go for the dragon if they want to. And yes, it's just the cloud dragon, so you could say it's fine to give up, but it's the tempo, the map control that I don't want Suning to give up, as they double TP to the mid lane to continue to keep priority there. On almost got the engage there. That would have been huge. As we do see Angel going down to the back line, though, he's going to take a lot of damage from Kramer on the Kalista. They are split, though. Kalista is not here for the fight, and Xiye and Fearness are split from the rest of the team. I don't think that Angel wants to necessarily take that kick, but they will continue to position around this dragon. Both teams know that this could be very, very important for continuing to build their leads, to continue to build their advantages. And On takes the engage. Dawning Shadow goes up as the equalizer already comes down. Angel's on the flank. He gets the kick onto Kramer. Kramer's gone. SofM finds the kill, but can they find the rest? Suning are taking a ton of damage on the backside of this. Fearness survives for a decent amount of time, but it's a 4v3 in favor of Suning, and they have found the re-engages, but can they? Xiye and Shadow are putting in some serious work, but the numbers advantage for Suning is too big to handle, and LGD lose the fight.
Suning beautiful with their target selection, and Angel is someone I've praised for this specifically. He finds the long flank not covered by LGD. He finds the access to the back line and delivers a beautiful kick. Kramer instantly deleted, didn't even get a chance to flash, didn't even get a chance to ultimate, and as a result, even though LGD made that look close, particularly Xiye, they still end up losing the fight, and Suning can secure that dragon and sort of put their fears at bay for another 5 minutes. Really well executed team fight from Suning.
And right when they needed to have it executed on, that's what I love so much about it. Suning able to pick apart the fight the way they wanted to, use the advantage that they had in the gold lead to take it. And yes, Xiye put up a huge fight with that Sylas, but he's just not big enough yet. There isn't the gold advantage that you would want on some of these pieces for LGD, and especially Kramer getting caught out. That just cannot happen with the composition that you have set up for yourself. And we're going to see that beautiful flank come in from Angel.
Yeah, I mean, the ward coverage wasn't there for the flank, but he gets a Warthog flash kick into the instant Nautilus ult from On here, and SofM dies straight in on top of it. And yes, they quickly use Angel there, but the job is done by taking out that AD carry.
Oh, we got another fight. LGD
caught out.
They found On.
Just as I'm praising him, you know, this is something that unfortunately is a little bit typical, where he'll just overstep and be too aggressive and get caught out, and this has now given LGD a window to start up this Baron. Remember, this is a Kalista.
Yeah.
If you're on the Baron first, very hard to steal this away, so Suning need to join the fight early.
And we see they want to, but they're a little bit indecisive on doing so. Xiye found the engage on Angel. The Everfrost came out, but Angel is still the least send. They're using everything to try to get him, but they can't do it. And Ben goes ahead and pops the paranoia. There goes the Baron attempt for LGD.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't lose a single member to deny that Baron attempt. Angel playing it really well, able to dodge away from the Zenith Blade and the Equalizer. So LGD, being a lot of time, being a lot of pressure, but won't actually result in anything other than that initial pick from Ong there. Really well played by Suning to sort of mitigate that pressure.
They do even it up here, at least not letting that Baron go over. They've also still got their 4,000 gold lead in their pockets, and they're just waiting at this point, you know, trying to get some of these side lanes under wraps, trying to get ready for this next dragon fight that we've seen them prioritize over. They don't want to give over that soul to LGD. Yes, it's just Cloud Soul, I've already said that, but it would be very nice to have some ultimate cooldown reduction for them and for the composition that they have. So it's really interesting, and I want to take a moment to set up, as we're going to see the catch out in mid lane of On. I want to set up what we're looking at for these next fights, right? We're looking for those engages from both teams, but I'm also needing to see Kramer's positioning here. It's something we've harped on in the past where he has gotten caught. He's overextended himself. You can't say that wasn't an overextension last time. That's just being an ADC in League of Legends, but I still want to keep a magnifying glass on this Kalista.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of LGD's vision control being a little bit lackluster there, because they knew roughly where Angel was and kind of his intent. There was a control ward that spotted him on that roam, but because they didn't have a ward over the wall, they weren't able to see the timing. There wasn't as much opportunity to react, because if Kramer flashed there to the other side, they could very easily clash on Angel, and that probably would have been a one team fight for LGD. Bear in mind, Bin didn't have Paranoia to follow up, but because of that scenario, they very swiftly managed to win it out. Now, LGD now moving over towards the Baron area to contest some of this vision. I think it's important because, again, those flanks can be super punishing from both sides. The AD carries in these scenarios are vulnerable when if the enemy team can get on top of them.
Yeah, and it's starting to feel like each fight means so much more than just the bodies that drop. And we've already seen the reset coming out from LGD. They got a little bit of vision around the Baron pit just to make sure there were no shenanigans going on that way. They know where the real prize lies. They've got to get this mid priority. They got to get back onto the map and get the vision game down for themselves. Not let Suning push up into their side of the map and create control over this objective.
I think the problem is it's really hard because we see Bin will move bot, push the wave in, and then he'll sort of rotate up as the team are getting mid-prio, and the threat of the Paranoia on top of that. The thing is as well, if you Paranoia, Fearness can't TP in, so whenever he's answering waves in the side lane, you are extremely vulnerable in those scenarios, so they have to be really cautious about that, and as a result, they just have to completely respect the space that Suning owns, and they have to back away. And now, once again, they'll look to push those waves in. Do you see Angel actually sacrificing the top wave for this, but they are really dead set on getting this mid priority and forcing LGD back. Now, something I do think is important is I want to see Suning allow LGD to move in and then look for the engage in flanks, because when they dove in with the Paranoia, really wasn't the play you're looking for. Now, actually, could potentially find Mark Fearness out here if they wanted to push in, but I think they're playing a little bit conservative.
Yeah, they're playing just a bit diciness, with a little bit of diciness here, as now they're moving into the Baron Pit area. You're getting that split away from LGD yet again. We've seen this time and time again so far, and Suning could take the fight if they want to go for the engage. They don't really have vision on the back line right now, and you also now have Xiye to deal with on the flank, potentially with the Sylas. They're just going for the engage. Xiye is not there, but Equalizer comes down anyways with the Solar Flare. There's the Fate's Call, but not going to get the re-engage, as now Suning can move forward. Every ulti pretty much is gone. They've got Depth Charge, they got Showstopper, but that is it for LGD. You still have wombo combos, everything available for Suning, and they know that. They're forcing LGD's hand here, and LGD just don't know how to deal with it. They're getting picked apart, and damage is starting to come down as the Dragon is started. You've got Kramer putting Ren stacks into it, but here comes the engage from Suning. They have the Paranoia, they have the wombo combo. Showstopper comes out, but LGD are still in this fight. LGD still have a lot of damage to do. Not anymore, though, as Suning are moving forward. Xiye, though, is trying to pick up the rest of his team. Only is able to get the one with the help of Kramer, but everybody else from LGD have to back away. On goes for the engage. They do find the wall. They also find the kills as Shadow and Xiye are gone. They're also going to find Mark, but they will not get Fearness. That's the second dragon for them. That is the fight for them, and that's a 6K gold lead for Suning.
Suning able to find the approach in the team fight, and the critical thing was LGD just did not have gas in the tank. 3 major team fighting ultimates all unavailable, and you see when the fight started to break down, they just couldn't match up to the raw power. A gold disadvantage is one thing, the ult disadvantage was another, and as a result, Suning crushed that fight. Really great play coming out from Angel on this Lee Sin. He was a little bit subdued in that game 1, but game 2, he is out for blood.
And we are seeing everything we set up for these mid laners shine on through, as both of them have had some very good performances. Even in this game, both of them have had some great performances. But overall, these are the shining lights for these teams. These are the heartbeats, as we've said multiple times, for these teams. And you're seeing it come out here in dominating fashion from Angel on this Lee Sin. We're going to take a look at that fight.
So I think you can watch Kramer in this situation and just how he's really unable to find a window in this team fight. He starts to move forward and get some autos down there, but very quickly he gets shut down. SofM gets a big ult, the hop follows, and again, Kramer unable to do much, and that's when Angel's really taking over this fight, takes out Kramer and just continues to find success on this Lee Sin, essentially unchallenged, and the damage just isn't there to take him down. Too much sustain, and now
Oh, Mark gets pulled in by the bait call though, so he will survive. Tuning are just hunting right now for LGD, and LGD just don't have a response though, Aux.
Yeah, and it just feels like Suning, they offer very little. You know, they just push forward and go a little bit aggressive, and we see Equalizer burn, we see Fate's Call burn. LGD have to respond so heavily because of this goal disadvantage, and now Baron started, LGD trying to look for a window in.
Ball available for Xiye, doesn't find the abduct to get into the fight though. As Angel's over the wall, ready to take a kick onto Kramer if he can, or at least the Sonic wave, and they don't actually find the engage here. They go for it though. They do find it with On, who has been on point with his hooks at this point, and the dotted shadow on top of it's gonna lead the Wombo combo away to Fearness, and Fearness dies. Now you're in a 4v5 situation where Suning feel confident in taking this Baron.
It's such a hard one. If LGD give this one up, they are in a pretty rough spot, but I don't think they have much of a chance of contesting. Mark down, and they're looking to continue.
Oh, it's looking like...
Oh, looks like we might have got a cutout there from Mazel. So see Kramer trying to kite on the backline, but closed down by Angel.
Able to clean house. That's an ace, and that's going to be a complete and total fight victory for Suning.
Just a complete victory there. LGD unable to match, and now long death timers. I don't think they have enough to close the game before someone respawns, but I don't think they care. It's only going to be Fearness available, and I think they're just potentially looking for the end here. Bare minimum, this top inhib with the TP coming in. I think they want more.
And we get to go the distance, Aux. It's exactly what we wanted. We got to start off the Super Weekend days as bangers. And Suning may lose a couple members here, but they're going to take the towers. They're going to take what really matters. And Suning will tie us up in this best of 3 series as they take down LGD in game number 2.
And a pretty convincing victory. It wasn't the same fast-paced explosion we saw in the early game of LGD, but Suning, they find the advantage and they continue to push it. I think the keynotes to look at was the mid priority and what that secured, Angel's performance in team fights, and also when it came to those scenarios where we had full-on 5v5s, the target selection was so good for the side of Suning. They knew exactly who they had to go on to. They perfectly targeted Kramer in that initial dragon fight, and it was just flawless execution.
The execution was so on point there. And honestly, I really liked On's contributions. I think that he had a night and day performance from game number 1. There were not those engages. There were not those moments that you could feel happy for him with. But in this game, it was non-stop. And it was the follow-up that continued to come through from Suning. Just exactly how we said they like to play, right? They like to be, have a decent advantage, but it's the team fights they excel in, and they pulled LGD apart in every single one of those. You can blame that a lot on the gold lead, but you can also blame that on the execution errors that were coming through from LGD and the composition that they drafted for themselves, and especially the Kalista for Kramer.
And I think it kind of showed how the way in which these teams play is very different. The explosive early game from LGD compared to the sort of more advantages that we find in these 5v5 setups for Suning. They didn't really explode things, but when they came to those moments, they really knew how to deliver. And I think the way they play the map as well was really intelligent. Pushing in the side lane with Bin, pushing in the mid lane, and then leaning that pressure over, and the threat of the paranoia too much to really contest. So a good showing of how Suning would like to play a game out. But again, I feel like when we look at the sort of catalyst for everything, it feels like it's that mid lane priority. The difference in the jungle matchup was massive, and it's the same 2 champions we saw in game 1, but the difference was Angel being freed up to offer that assistance. So I think when we come into game 3, mid priority will be king.
Yeah, you have to think so, and we have to look at what those picks are going to be for that one. But just crazy to me that we've gotten to this point in the way that we did, right? It was so calm early on comparatively to that first game where Suning were just buying their time, finding those advantages that you were speaking of. And then the fights were just so crazy. And for me, like, Xiye tried his darndest on this Sylas. You see those damage numbers, right? But it was the combination. They never felt like they were on solid ground. And you can see with that gold lead, they never really were.
And the thing is, I feel like we didn't see too much proactivity from the bot lane from Kramer. You know, I see Kalista, I'm like, you want to be winning lane hard. Yeah. But we didn't really get that out of it. And we also had a scenario where Kramer ended up being a little bit of a liability in team fights, which, in fairness, that was really credit to the engages coming out from Suning and the pressure they applied. But even so, the Kalista not really working for the team.
7-0 in towers. My God, that's a domination like no other. But as well as just their objective control was really good. So as you were kind of alluding to earlier, I want to talk a little bit more about what we could potentially see going into game 3. You got to look at the jungle matchups. Maybe we'll see the same combos, but it's that mid lane. Do we see the Nocturne come out? Do we see these kind of crazy picks come out for Xiye, for Angel? I'm excited to tell. I'm excited to see.